Hi, this is David Errigo Jr. and you're listening to the FSF Podcast, I think.
Hello and welcome to the FSF Podcast. I'm Tim, I'm your host, and of course, Kathleen is here with me.
I am?
To help us. Yeah, you are.
I did it!
That's amazing.
Yay!
She did the thing. She showed up. She's doing the talky talk. Anyway, we're here today to interview an amazing voice actor whose talents you've no doubtably heard and recognized as Ferb in Phineas and Ferb, Leech in X-Men 97, Hamton J. Pig, and Plucky Duck in Tiny Toons Looniversity, and many others. Literally, you could go to his IMDb page and go, yep, heard him, watched it, heard him, watched it, heard him. And yeah, there's a ton of them in there. So on that note, we'd like to welcome David Errigo Jr. to the FSF Podcast. Welcome to the show, David.
I know him! Owes me money.
I haven't seen him.
I love that intro.
See
All
him,
right.
you tell him you gotta bring me my bag. That bag that's full of cash, all right? You let him know. Otherwise, I'm coming after his legs.
This is going to be fun.
I'm going to just do my best to keep you completely incapable of having an interview.
I'll be like, oh, yeah, you want to talk about some fun stuff? I'll bring it up.
So we have the goal of making Tim laugh so hard he falls out of his chair.
I think the closest we came was Rob Paulson.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Rob,
an idol.
Yeah, Rob started singing Stacy's mom, but as
Jimmy's mom.
What's going on?
Yeah, but he was singing it as
Carl.
Yes.
Yeah, he was singing it as Carl, but it was Jimmy's mom.
Mom has got it going on. Yeah, amazing.
Oh god. I literally almost spit in my drink and fell out of my chair because I was not expecting it, and I had just taken a big gulp of my drink, and he cracks right off into that.
Yeah, Rob is someone that I would love to meet him. I haven't had the real, well, now that I would love to meet him in like a work setting, right? Because I've run into him before, and he's not going to know me from Adam when I've met him. But he has been so impactful on my career, and he would never know. But his Talkin' Toons podcast was basically what I consider my cartoon university. When I was nominated for an Emmy a couple of years ago, that podcast and Rob Paulson was in my speech, part of my thank yous, because it's been so important to my journey. Like when I was in New York, before I moved to LA, I would run by the Hudson River and I would listen to different episodes, and I would hear people say how they did this thing. And it just gave me so much more information than I would have come to town with otherwise, to the point where in my agency meeting with SBV, apparently when I left, they were like, he just got here, right? How in the heck does he know that? And it was all because of, Rob's podcast and the generosity that, he and his guests shared their information.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
That is in my top 3 favorite interviews. It's right up there with Dan Povenmire and Armin Shimmerman. Like, it was just this is the most incredible. And my daughter,
just a terrible storyteller, though, right? Like he's just so bland, and you really got to pull it out of him.
Oh yeah, it's awful. And it was
Dan
so
doesn't
funny
like to talk. It took so long to get him going.
Well, and then with Rob too, it was so funny because he was like sitting outside a Starbucks using the Wi-Fi at Starbucks, and so then he's going into character voices and out of character voices and watching the people in the background snap their heads without like, wait a second.
You can see the reflection on the window behind him.
It was great.
It was pretty entertaining.
What, Carl Weezer?
Honey, I think that was United States Canada man.
Yes.
New Mexico, Panama. Yeah, it was him.
So I'm gonna ask you this question, but I think you kind of already led into it a little bit with what you're saying there about Rob and his podcast and everything.
Hmm.
But one of the things that we love to know about our guests is their origin stories, how they got started, why they got started. And
Sure.
so for you, other than Rob Paulson, what were some of the influences in your life that made you want to be the voice actor and the good nerd that you are today?
I mean, my parents let me watch a lot of TV and play a lot of video games to the point where my dad was like, I wish he would do something else. But now he is thankful that he allowed me. Um, but I mean, the Disney movies of my youth, Lion King, Aladdin,
Mm-hmm.
Hunchback, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, all of that stuff, and the VHS that like we could just rewatch it all. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yep.
Robin Williams in Aladdin is, I think, for anybody of my generation, if that
Chef's
didn't
kiss.
make you want to at least try this, I don't know. Like you would never ever want to be an actor, but any actor who saw that or anybody who was destined to be an actor, I think wanted to do voiceover in some way after seeing Robin Williams as the genie. Um, there's just all of this magic to animation, and I was so lucky to grow up when I did with Fox Kids and the start of Cartoon
Mm-hmm.
Network, because that was such prime time where you'd get, and we're about to have it again with Me TV Tunes or Me Tunes TV or Tunes
Hmm.
TV Me, whatever it is that's about to come. It's going to be another opportunity for a whole generation of people to experience these sort of cartoons out of time, as it were,
Really?
where like for me growing up, I got to see Josie and the Pussycats and Jabberjaw and the original Space Ghost and Hercules and the Herculoids, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
and Justice League and Super Friends and all of that stuff. And then shortly thereafter, you're getting What a Cartoon, and you're getting Dexter's Laboratory and Powerpuff Girls and Johnny Bravo
Mm.
alongside Doug and
Pepper
Rugrats and all this
Ann.
stuff on Nickelodeon, and Kids WB is giving us, or excuse me, Fox Kids is giving us Spider-Man and X-Men and Eek the Cat and the Tick, and so there's just this huge amount of content to take in, but from a bunch of different time periods too. The original Looney Tunes were run constantly on OG Cartoon Network. Um, so anyway, eventually I decided I wanted to be a performer because I was at a Springsteen concert with my dad, who's from New Jersey, and I'm looking at him, and he's got this grin on his face that I'm like, okay, I want to do that for people. Um, and I thought I was going to do theater. I thought I was going to be an actor, musical theater, all that. Pushed for that. Got a degree in theater from the University of Montana. Moved to Arizona. Did a lot of theater at a company there. Did some summer stock in different places. Wound up in New York, trying to do the Broadway thing. While I'm trying to do the Broadway thing, I get a meeting with an on-camera commercial agent from my manager, and I wind up talking to this guy Doug Keston over at Paradigm, and he says, what have you done? What do you like? What's that thing on your wrist? And I had something like this, but it was Sucks to Be Me, AvQ Phoenix. Because I had done a production of Avenue Q down in Phoenix, and like
Hmm.
the puppeteering kind of scared me at first. Um, but then I was just like, okay, I'm gonna put in the work, I'm gonna do it. And when the reviews came out, I was highlighted as a very strong puppeteer.
Oh, nice.
And so I wore that little bracelet as a reminder that I could do things that scared me. And so I told him that story, and he kind of took me by the shoulders, picked me up, walked me across the office, sat me down in front of another guy named Matt Smith, and he goes, "You two, talk." And Matt was a voice agent, and immediately I was kind of like, "Wait, you guys are gonna let me try to do this without being an on-camera celebrity or a Broadway star?" And this is a little anachronistic, but basically the look I got from Matt was, "It's McDonald's commercials, bro." Um, like he didn't say that out loud, but that was kind of the vibe I got back, and so
That's
that's where I kind
awesome.
of started cutting my teeth, and that's when I really started doing the dedicated research. That's when I listened to Rob's podcast. That's when I started listening to VO Buzz Weekly. That's when I got Tara and Yuri's book, Voiceover Voice Actor, which I liked so much. I'm actually a testimonial in the second edition.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
that's when I stumbled on D. Bradley Baker's website, iwannabeavoiceactor.com, which one of my favorite things I've ever heard him say was in a clinic. And he goes, yeah, I've got this website. It's called iwantobeavoiceactor.com. And if you can't remember that, no, you don't. I was like, that's
Oh,
on point. So all of that sort of dedicated effort wound up bringing me out to LA. A woman that I worked with as a dialect coach on a production of Fiddler out in Portland, named Mary McDonald Lewis, who's the original Lady J on G.I. Joe and the voice of OnStar for a long time, Nesta. She asked me shortly after I got here, do you want to meet my people at SBV? And I was like, yeah. They're like top tier. I know that they are of the highest caliber in voiceover out here. And so we set that up, and I was lucky enough to be picked up by them. And a couple months later, I booked a commercial campaign that let me stop doing anything else. And I have been insanely fortunate to make my living exclusively as a voice actor for the last 7 years or so.
That's awesome.
that is awesome.
That's awesome. It's a great story.
Sorry to rush through that. I know if people have heard me on other podcasts, they've heard like the extended version of all of that. So I was like, let me see if I can make this as concise as possible so we can talk about other stuff.
There's so much more to talk
Fair enough.
There is. So I was thinking about it when we were preparing for the interview. And between Tiny Toons Looniversity, X-Men 97, and Phineas and Ferb, your voice is honestly quite commonplace in my house right now. I have a 5.5-year-old daughter who loves Tiny Toons Looniversity.
I love that.
Yeah, my husband and I have both been watching X-Men 97, and obviously, I mean, Phineas and Ferb is just a solid cartoon. But yeah. I was thinking about it, and I would always... the idea of being a voice actor and suddenly hearing your voice out in public is super weird to me. So thinking about the fact that I hear your voice on almost a daily basis in my own house, does it still weird you out when you hear your voice places?
No, I think it, to me, rather than it weirding me out, it's more of like this wonderful tug on my heartstrings, because I'm very big on gratitude. My attitude is gratitude, as I say, and I could be digging ditches somewhere, but instead I get to make
silly voices in the booth and make people laugh and smile in their houses.
Like who's luckier than me? Well, except for Eric Balza, because he does it for everything. Like just as a, and I love him, by the way. As a performer, it could all go away tomorrow, and having the successes that I've been able to have so far, I would still count myself insanely fortunate to have gotten to spend a portion of my life this way. Vincent and I, he and I have become good buddies. Vincent Martella, who's Phineas. Mm-hmm. We went to Disney Channel night maybe a couple months ago now, out at Disneyland, and they had a Phineas and Ferb dance party, and he's been doing this thing for so long. It's been a part of his life for so long, and to see him boy, that's unexpected. To see him really react to and be affected by hearing his work show up today, right? And have it be in the parks and have people so enthusiastic about it all. I mean, I can only hope to maintain, at least a portion of that same wonder. And I'm pretty confident I will, but it's one of the great gifts in our lives, and to lose track of it would be such a shame. So no, it doesn't weird me out. it makes me really, really happy to know that, you know, the work is there and people care about it, and it's making people smile, or cringe, or whatever it is meant to do. You know, if we
Right.
can elicit response, fantastic. I got the best job in the world.
That's
Sorry, that
awesome.
was a little unexpectedly sincere.
It's okay. It's
No,
okay. We
we
are
like
allowed
sincerity.
to have feelings. Feelings are normal.
Yeah.
That's what she keeps trying to tell me too. I don't
This
know.
is a
Anyway,
safe zone, Tim. I will only mock you mercilessly.
she only makes fun of me. Everybody else is a safe space. Me, not so much, but you know.
But before we leave the point, the other cool part of this job is like we go and we do these conventions together. Me and Vince, and sometimes Olivia Olson will go, and we're just like a little trio from Phineas and Ferb, getting out there and giving people the experience that they get to see their some of their favorite characters. And like when I say to somebody, "Oh, I'm sorry, did you want to say that? It's just that it's been a long time." And that look on their face, it changes, and they get to have that thing. Oh, what a cool thing to be able to do out in the world. It's like having a superpower.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking. I did another interview earlier today, and we were talking about the Comic Cons and going to Comic Cons and because Kathleen and I have gone to several for different reasons, either as press, you know, to go to do interviews there, or just to go as fans and talk with, you know, the people, you know, that do the things with the things, you know. And we've gone there and to see the level of dedication that the fans have in their cosplay, and then they come up to the booths and they're talking to the people, and to watch the back and forth between the entertainer and the fan
Mm-hmm.
is almost as fun to me as watching the television show. And
Sure.
because now it's almost like live theater and watching that give and take,
Uh-huh.
you know, and it's an amazing thing. Like, so for my daughter, like last year we went to the Grand, because we're from Michigan,
Okay.
and we went to the Grand Rapids, Michigan Comic-Con, and they had a lot
Okay.
of the voice actors from Arcane there, and my daughter's a massive
Mm.
Arcane fan.
Because it's
And
incredible.
well, yeah, it's freaking amazing. And you know, they had a couple of the guys there, and my daughter was like getting like overwhelmed and a little hyper, you know, anxious,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so sweet that one of the guys came out from his booth, came over to her, gave her a big hug, and in this character's voice thanked her for being there.
I would.
And it just melted my
Yeah.
daughter, you know. And
Oh, God,
those
that
kind of
reminds me of a
interactions are just,
story in Columbus. I'm going to try not to get emotional again. But we were in Columbus last year, and we're at this convention called Animate Columbus, and this family comes up to us, and it's a mom and a dad and a sister, and then two brothers, and both of the brothers happen to be autistic. One was reported nonverbal and was like in his phone, and the mom is there, and she's explaining to us that these boys love the show, they watch it all the time, and the nonverbal young man, it was on his phone, and he was watching it, and the mom goes, "Would you guys mind doing the voices? They don't really know who you are without hearing the voices." And Vince goes, "Yeah, sure. Hey, I know what we're gonna do today." And he like starts talking to this kid in the voice, and kid goes, head snaps up, right? And he walks up to Vince, like at the table, and Vince is just still talking to him, and the kid like reaches out his hand and grabs Vince's face. And the mom is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And Vince is like, it's okay. And he just keeps talking to the kid, and the kid talks back.
Oh,
This
Oh,
kid
my.
that mom says is nonverbal just starts talking to Vince, and I got up, I go, "I'll be back." Like I walked away
Yep,
from
I'm
the
done.
table. I couldn't take it. And it's one of my very favorite memories. And if I'm ever like, if I'm ever having a rough, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. How am I going to do this, con this weekend or tomorrow because we're already tired from the day before?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm not going to miss a chance to see that or to give that.
That's beautiful.
We again, gratitude. We're so lucky that anybody even cares, right? And so to have somebody care that much,
Yeah.
yeah.
Incredible.
I have some onions fresh over in here.
See, and it's funny as I was over here with the already trying not to get emotional, thinking about the fact that when the show was airing, because Vincent and I are about the same age, so
Okay.
I was a little old for Phineas and Ferb, but you're never too old for Phineas and Ferb. And
Agreed.
I remember one day I was watching it, and my dad's like, "Why are you watching this? What is this?" And I'm like, "It's Phineas and Ferb. It's hilarious." And he sat down and he watched for a while, and he's like, "Well, I guess this is solid quality programming." I'm like, "What? What?
Who are you, and what have you done with my father?"
Out of my father's mouth?" Like, he goes, "No, that reminds me of your brothers. Like, that's your brothers growing up. That's me and my brothers growing up." And I'm like, I love that. And it was funny when we talked to Dan, and he mentioned that a lot of it was that capturing the boy adventures that you go on as a kid. I'm like, oh yeah, you guys did it. You got it locked down there.
Oh my gosh.
Nailed it.
And the cross-generational appeal, I think, is one of the most wonderful things about the show, because it's not talking down to any segment of its audience, but it's also not speaking so far above any segment of its audience either that it's inaccessible. There are things that are in there, but the jokes per minute are quick enough to where even if you've got rapid fire, a joke for the adults, a joke for the kids, a joke for the tweens, they're all in this rapid fire order that you're like, oh, okay, well, here we go. It's fun for everybody. If you're not laughing now, you're going to laugh in a second, and then you're going to laugh a little later.
Yeah. Yeah, and talking
Agreed.
about my dad, and we introduced my daughter to it. My dad died in 2020, and it's just he would have loved sitting and watching this with her, watching her and laughing with her at this show. And it's and then the number of times that something will happen in the show, they'll do something, and she's like, "Mom, do you think we could build a roller coaster in the backyard?" I'm like, "No." No.
It would be much smaller, sweetie. It's going to be much smaller. We'll get the erector set and we'll build a functioning roller coaster. Yes, doll, but you can't get in it.
All right.
We'll get a little you and we'll put a little you in it.
Well, I already have a sandbox. Can we do a backyard beach? I'm like, oh my gosh.
And that's the point where you go, and yes, honey, that's the power of imagination.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, if I can draw it, sure, but I can't. So no.
Yeah, I imagine that for Honora that Phineas and Ferb has to be just all kinds of imagination fuel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I know it was for my boys when they were growing up, and that we watched it with them when they were younger, but they were on the cusp of kind of wanting to grow out of it and watch other things. But they would always come back to it. It was kind of funny. They're like, "Oh, I'm not going to watch it anymore because I'm too old for that now." And then they would go watch something else, and then
they just keep bringing me back in.
Exactly. And then the next thing you know, they're back watching it again, and I'm like, yeah, because it's good, right? Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's such a comfort show too. After you watch it a couple of times, and then you're like, "Oh wait, no, I love this episode."
Between that and the songs,
I say I'm the luckiest Phineas and Ferb fan in the world, because I fell in love with the show before getting to be involved with it. Because they had the original run of the series, and then they had the crossover episode with Milo Murphy's Law, and that's when I got to start. And then we did the movie Candace Against the Universe, and Perry the Platypus has been my text tone since 2012. And I didn't get involved with this thing until 2017. So that's, for me, I am so lucky to have been involved at all, and to get to know these people, and to be close with them, to consider Vince one of my best friends in the world. what other Phineas and Ferb fan gets to sort of say that? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's very cool. All right, so David, we've also had opportunity, and we feel fortunate to have opportunity to have had Dan Palvenmeyer, Swampy Marsh on the show, one of the head writers, Josh Pruitt, and one of the directors, Amber Hollinger Tornquist, who have obviously ties to the show, Phineas and
Mhm.
Ferb, here, and we've talked about this already, us being big fans, so we're always very excited to talk about the show. But if you don't mind, could you talk to us about the casting process and how you got to get to be Ferb and the creation of you doing the voice?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's interesting when you're coming in to match somebody, right? Because you've already got a blueprint. They sent out sides that had an audio file, and they're like, we want you to match this sound for this character, blah blah blah. And they had the one that's like something to do with yoga is something, and then whereas sorbet is vigorously turned rich people or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote, and that's really making me sound like a bad voice match person because I'm fumbly bumbly. But when I got it, I was like, I think this is in my wheelhouse, and so I recorded and I sent it off, and didn't think anything of it. And they sent it back again, and they were like, do it again. Okay. And my wife at the time, she was like, if you don't get this, I don't understand your job at all. And so, I reread, I sent it back in, and apparently Kristen Paiva, who wound up putting me in the seat as the casting director, along with Dan and Swampy, I'm sure, she told me later that she took my audio sample and layered the waveform over Thomas's sample, and they were indistinguishable. So she was
Oh,
like,
wow.
you can't you can't argue with that. That's sound. So that's sort of how I wound up with the gig. Was just like any other audition. And then I went in and thankfully didn't screw up too badly, and so they wanted to have me back for the movie.
That's fantastic. We've had opportunity to talk to a couple because we love talking with voice actors. I always enjoy.
They're our favorites.
They're some of our favorite people to talk to. We had a
It's
conversation with
multiple people when you talk to them.
Right. Well, exactly. We had a chance to talk with Danny Jacobs, who does the voice for
Yeah, King Julian, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and he talked about the voice matching process, and to having to voice match with Sacha Baron Cohen and how that all
Mhm.
happened, and it's a very interesting process to me, and that's why I always like to ask about it because
Yeah.
thinking if I've ever tried to do a voice, I know it sounds nothing like the person, but
But that can still be a great character. I
right.
mean, there's different responsibilities, right? Like even within X-Men, I'll make a jump. Like,
My responsibility for coming in for Leech was to sound a lot like what he sounded like on the original series, but to take out maybe a potentially offensive dialect.
so instead we were like, okay, how about he just really enunciates? And like, okay, yeah, cool. But then with Mojo, there was no talk about matching the original actor. It was just, you are cuckoo bananas, and we'd like to use you for this because we think you're also cuckoo bananas. But even further with the stuff that you're talking about, like a bad voice match can still be a really great character. My guys on Tiny Toons are definitely not voice matches, but they are, to me, how I remember them sounding. They're way off, by the way.
Okay.
If you were to ever compare them side by side, way off. But I knew they were looking for something different, so I didn't go back to the source material to try and refine a voice match. So instead, that's why, instead of a lateral lisp, which Alasky kind of did for Plucky, I've got that more forward sort of lisp. That's a lot more like Daffy, And
Hampton J. Pig, who's such a sweetheart, he didn't even have a stutter in the original.
Because Don Messick just apparently, according to Bob, Don refused to do it. He was like, no, he's not going to have a stutter. I'm like, okay. Well. So in my head, I thought he had a stutter. In my head, I thought Plucky had that forward lisp. So they've got like some of the DNA because that's what I'm aiming at.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really bad impression if you actually take them side by side. They've got a lot of sort of their core being that we kept similar, but in terms of the actual sound, nah. A bad character can be a great a bad voice can be a great character. I mean, Hank Azaria famously, or at least famously in my mind, on John DiMaggio's "I Know That Voice" documentary. He says, most of his characters on The Simpsons are just bad impressions. Like Moe is a bad Edward G. Robinson or something like that, or somebody. One of them's a bad Stallone. One of them's a, he's like, yeah, these are just bad impressions that are great characters.
That's cool. And now, actually, that you mention it, I never paid attention to the fact that the original Hampton Pig didn't have a stutter.
Right.
I didn't even think about it.
Nope.
Until now, I guess I just always assumed it's the pig, so it's kind of like,
kind of like
Porky-esque, so it has a stutter.
But as it turns out, it fits.
It does.
It does. It's wonderful.
And we've got just a hint of Southern in him, which I think makes him charming as well. It's a hoot. I mean, like
getting to do Arnold the Pitbull for Tiny Toons is also a blast.
And I'm not doing the Rob version of it. I'm not doing a proper Arnold Schwarzenegger either, because if you're gonna do Arnold and it's real Arnold, right? It's a bit simpler. It doesn't have the same sort of peaks and valleys.
But when you're doing, welcome to Skulls and Silly Bones. See, come on, Recruit Bunny.
But the funny thing to that is I'm not doing either of those other characters. I am doing my sister's husband and his friends in high school doing Arnold Schwarzenegger, because there was a video productions class at their high school, and they redubbed Predator. And so I got to watch that, and there were lines there like,
Arnold is not stupid. Arnold can spell his name. A-L-Q. Arnold cannot spell his name.
Like, so that to me sticks through, and that's why my Arnold the Pitbull sounds the way that he does, is because of my influence growing up, rather than like,
I think Rob's Arnold, he had a little more adenoid. I think it was a little more of the, I'm going to pump you up.
That sort of thing, if memory serves, and that could be
Hans and Franz.
Yeah, Hans and Franz. But
that's fantastic. I love
the hoverboard. I've shifted our hoverboard.
I love it, though.
It's fantastic. I love that thought, though, because, I think some of the better, personally, I've always felt the better impressions of Arnold are the really bad ones, the caricaturized ones.
Yeah.
Because they're so much more entertaining. Especially when they're like, trying to yell to get to the chopper and all those other things. And,
yeah, of course.
And there's all the screaming afterwards, so.
Well, and that's what a great impression has, that sort of hook, right? And oftentimes, like, a great impressionist will find that hook, and then everyone just takes it in. Everyone, when they start to do, like, that impression becomes synonymous with the character to the point where they even become, that stereotype. How many people do a Christopher Walken? How many people do a oh God, I'm gonna forget his name. Why am I gonna forget his name? Captain Kirk. Come on.
Shatner.
William Shatner. Yeah. And I love like I've been to Outtake Orama a couple of times, which is something that Billy West and John DiMaggio, Maurice LaMarche, and David X. Cohen put together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's these outtakes from like old tapes, like the French wine thing with Citizen Kane. Come on, Citizen Kane, the actor. Goodness.
Totally missing it now.
Uh,
Great.
Maurice does him for Brain. Yes, Pinky.
Oh.
I'm a bad
My
actor
brain
for
is
his name. Anyway,
Orson
he's got
Welles.
this Orson Welles, thank you. But he's got these great like yeah, French. Outside there's a bottle of wine or like whatever. He's like there's these famous outtakes. And seeing them do those is just a blast. And there's this great Shatner one. It's totally worth looking up. Howard Stern got a hold of some outtakes, and uh, they'll recreate this scene where he's like, "Hi, I'm William Shatner, and I'd like to take you on a journey through the cosmos, and come with me for the afternoon, and we'll have a great time." And the engineer slash director goes, "Okay, Bill, could we do it again? And this time, I don't know, could you make it a little more energized or exciting?" And you just hear Shatner go, "Haha, okay."
Okay.
"Hi, I'm William Shatner, and I'm going to take you on a journey
Oh,
through
boy.
the cosmos." And he like does it, and the guy's like, "Actually, could you do it a little more?" And he goes, "Okay, well, how about you do it for me the way you want me to do it?" And it devolves from there. I absolutely suggest a listen.
Definitely.
But
I'll
those
have to go
kinds
check
of
that out.
voices, right? You hear them and they stick in your brain. Eddie Murphy saying, "We could stay up late swapping manly stories, and in the morning I'm making waffles." Like that kind of thing. It just sits in your brain so hard. Or do you think he's
Uh-huh.
compensating for something? With Shrek. Um, those voices. I don't know how I got onto this, but like somebody will find the impression, the hook for it, and then that's where it is, and that's where it lives, and other people find that access point.
So
Yeah.
the Shrek quote about I think he's compensating for something gets said a lot by me and by my friends because we live in a very rural area where sometimes those guys don't need the trucks as big as they've got.
Yeah.
Those trucks are not work trucks. Those
Yeah.
are definitely
Those are pavement princesses.
those are too clean to be work trucks. And the number of times that it gets said like Shrek cracks me
Mhm.
up.
It's
So
like it's like an
speaking-
earworm of a song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Continuing the derailing and going off somewhere else. You mentioned looking up the Shatner thing. There's one thing you got to look up. There is Rob Paulson and Maurice sitting down doing a reading as Pinky in the Brain. I think I said this to you today, Kathleen.
Oh, and then it goes into like it
But they're-
devolves into this really extreme language filled.
No,
Or is
not
this-
that one.
Oh,
This
okay.
is a different one. They're reading from Silence of the Lambs, and
this
Maurice
from the
is
It's on.
I don't
on
know. I
Nerdist?
found it. I came across it as a TikTok today, and I was dying
Okay.
of laughter because Maurice is Hannibal, and Pinky is the detective's name.
It's Clarice. Yeah. All right.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Send that to me.
It's. I will. I'll send it to you in a little while here. It's honestly fantastic. I was
Wonderful.
dying of laughter. So anyway, I will reel it back in and let Kathleen move on to her next
Okay.
question because I think she was starting to, and I jumped in with
I
that.
might have. I don't remember. I'm having too much fun to remember what I'm doing, so it's fine.
There you go.
So, looking at your list of credits, you have a few credits for additional voices on video games, which I know is just the background sounds and villages and things that you don't necessarily get a character name for. But
Uh-huh.
one of them that caught my attention was the additional voices for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I know Critical
Uh-huh.
Role's Matthew Mercer is in as Vincent Valentine, and he posted this TikTok of when they revealed to him that that was the character that he was getting, and he wasn't just being these NPCs, and his
Uh-huh.
reaction to getting to be that role. So I was looking at that with what is your dream character that you're just aching to voice?
Ooh, the next one. No, steal that one from Rob. That's his answer, and it's a good answer because we like to work. So it used to be Spider-Man. I grew up as a big, big, big Spider-Man fan. I mean, I still am. But then Yuri did it for Spider-Man 1 on PS4,
Oh yeah.
and I went, oh, okay, so no, I don't want to do this until Yuri's done with it. It's just too perfect. Um, I'll put my spin on it. If he says screw it, I'm moving to Greece, and I don't wanna do this job anymore, then I would love to give that a try. But gosh, what I really want, and it's something that, well, you know what? No, I was really, really, really over the moon when I found out I was voicing Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Um, that to me, it was one of those, holy crap, this is a part of animation history. This character is, Walt's creation before Mickey. So to have had the opportunity to play Oswald a couple times in a couple of video game projects now, has been just so, so, so cool, because in the smallest way, right, I get to be a part of that Mickey, Minnie, Daffy, Goofy, Daisy, Fab Five
Yeah.
thing. But
I'm like just on the outside, which is okay, because, they might have the looks, but I got the luck.
um, and if I were to able to do that character and do it for a length of time, like a Bill Farmer doing Goofy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what lucky stars was I born under?
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be cool.
and then the other more sort of obscure answer, which I have had for a while, is I would love to originate a role in something as enduring as the Ninja Turtles, right? And you
Oh
you
yeah.
won't know that at the time that you do it. Only time will show you that that's the case. But I think that would be so cool to be kind of the Rob or Townsend or Barry or Cam, from that crew, to be the prototype, um, for something that just keeps coming around and that so
Yeah.
many people get to take a shot at. That'd be swell.
That's awesome.
That would be cool.
That is,
That would be very cool.
love that. That's a great answer.
Hmm.
All right. So now we talked about your role as Leech. You voiced him a little bit there just a couple minutes ago. Because X-Men 97 is making all kinds of splashes right now, and
It's
we
so
are
good.
eagerly, and it's oh god, it's I cannot wait for the emotional destruction that I know is coming on Wednesday. I know it's there. I'm not asking for spoilers, but
Yeah.
I do know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
we are huge X-Men animated series fans. Um, we've been fortunate to interview Cal Dodd and
Oh,
are
that's
you gonna?
wonderful.
Hunter.
There we go. Kind of. So I took this to one of our
Oh, that's very
screening
cool.
parties, and I got a bunch of people to sign it for me so that I.
Oh man.
Okay, now that's
Um,
freaking cool.
Yeah. So I've got my Cal Dodd and I've got my Beast.
You got bees.
Awesome.
Yeah, we were able to get George Booza and Lenore Zan and Cal Dodd all on the show. And
Cal
we,
Dodd
that
sang
was
to me and then I cried a lot.
yeah, yeah, that was cool. But so we're big fans, and so this, because to me, when I talk to people about the animated, because I grew up in the '90s, I graduated from high school in '95. I
Oh,
was right at that age when the original X-Men series, shut up Kathleen, came out, and
oh,
and it meant a whole lot to me. And so to
Yeah,
me, that's like one of those iconic series.
yeah,
When people talk about like how much does that, what's an important series to you? I'm like, X-Men, you
yeah.
know, X-Men the animated series. So what does it mean to you to be in this, something as historic and iconic as the X-Men, especially now with '97, with so much of the original cast coming back?
I mean, it's twofold for me. First, yeah, I was the kid who had the VHS from Pizza Hut, Night of the Sentinels. Let's go. I
yeah.
had backflipping beast action figure that like half the time would backflip if you're lucky. I had umpteen different versions of Wolverine. I devoured that series when it was on. So to have had the opportunity to be brought in, I was beside myself. And then from a professional standpoint, it was a really cool, really affirming moment for me because I'd worked with Bo DeMaio and Meredith Lane, the
Okay.
showrunner and the voice director slash casting director for The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf, where I
Oh, okay.
played young Vesemir, who, he had a lot of attitude, which is a bit different than Ferb, right? Because Ferb is so soft spoken and sweet, and Vesemir had a chip on his shoulder. And we had a great time recording. And so I came in, the first thing I came in for was Leech, because they were looking for a voice match, and Meredith requested me to read. And when I got in, Bo said, when Meredith told me you were auditioning, I just said, yes, bring him in. You're a known quantity, and I absolutely believed you were just going to crush it. And we're going to have other things for you to audition for coming down the line because we want to use you more. And like, whoa, the way that feels as an actor to have the people in charge just go, yeah, we want you because we trust you. What a gift. Like, oh my gosh, I love to be the solution to a problem. And so to have them say, yeah, you are the toolbox we need. And on that first session too, he was like, yeah, we're gonna have Gladiator. And I go, oh, so something a little more like this. And he goes, yep, yes. And then of course, a little later, cast me as Gladiator. When Mojo was coming out, they sent it to me. They requested I read. I, lost my mind for a minute, blacked out, sent off the audition, and here we are with you know that episode 4 thing. And then being in there, they're like, hey, we want you to just do Banshee. Okay. Hey, we want you to do this radio voice. Okay. Hey, we want you to do this royal messenger. Okay. To have the
That's cool.
faith put into me about just letting me out onto the playground to run, that is as impactful to me as being a part of something that I love. I'm such an enthusiastic fan in the space anyway. Like, I did Mr. Mixus-Pitalik for My Adventures with Superman,
Mm-hmm.
and the showrunner, I ran into him over in Burbank outside of the movie theater. He's like, "Oh, dude, we're trying to get more, and if we do, we want to get you back." I said, "I don't care. I don't care if I come back. Just make sure you get more episodes because I love the show.
Right?
I I
Yeah,
love
pretty
watching the
outstanding.
show. Make sure there is more so that I have something to see." And so, as much as I love that I'm in X-Men 97, if I get to come back again, cool. If I don't, give me 12 more years of this show.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am living for it every week.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, we're at the same spot, and I just want to point out that how lucky you are that you get invited to a toolbox. I'm just usually called a tool by Kathleen. So
I have never used that word.
lies.
Yeah.
I don't think have.
Well, it was Peter O'Toole. That's what she was calling him.
Well,
See, no, and
some euphemism close to that, yes.
see, the only real reason that I laugh at, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to laugh at Tim. He usually provides us with plenty of reasons as well.
You're
But
welcome.
there's enough of an age difference between us that I just enjoy mocking him for how old he is. And then he will post on our social medias with the calling me a literal child. It's like, rude.
I did do that.
You
Yeah.
did.
Hey,
I
you
did
know
do
what?
that.
Turnabout is fair play.
I did do that. Yeah. I was pretty happy with that one.
See, and I think specifically with X-Men, it's funny for me as he's talking about graduating in 95 and being the teenager watching X-Men, and I'm like, I was 3 in 95.
I don't know if you can see the white in this beard, but it just got whiter.
In 97, I was playing as Wolverine on the playground in kindergarten, like getting in fights with my friends with the, no, I don't want to be Storm, I don't want to be Rogue, just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I'm going to be Wolverine.
There you go.
And that friend
And then you pull the knife on him.
well, that friend still has a scar from where he smashed his head on the pavement when I kicked him off the snowbank.
Well, that'll happen.
Like,
You'll have that.
don't argue with me, I said I'm Wolverine. The fact that we're still friends is a little terrifying.
Now pick up your intestines and put them back inside.
Right, you'll be fine. It's a flesh wound.
Use your inside organs.
Oh, that one. Oh, so David, typically Tim warns people that we go through the interview, and then we have what we like to refer to as our silly question. And then I usually joke about the fact that, yes, because all of our other questions were oh so serious, that this one then becomes the silly one. But as I've already mentioned, I have a 5.5-year-old daughter, and I don't remember where we were, and somebody asked her this question, and then I was probably. I was really sad that they didn't ask me. Nobody cared about my answer to the same question. And I figured,
dinosaur?
it is. What is your favorite dinosaur? Yes. So,
Did
David,
I really
we
guess
want to ask. Yes, we want to ask you, David. What is your favorite dinosaur? Because nobody seems to care once you're an adult.
It's a fair point. Boy, howdy. I'm bad with favorites generally. Because I like a lot. I feel like that's a good way to go through life, is liking a lot of things rather than just fixating on one. But I like, oh man, see, you got so many different influences, right? Like I enjoyed Sarah, the Triceratops in Land Before Time. I think she was great. The Velociraptors and the T-Rex on Jurassic Park are so cool. Who doesn't love a Stegosaurus he is a Mohawk? But then, the Brontosaurus, those are so cool too. But I think because I like the flight, I've got to go with a pterodactyl.
Awesome.
Fair choice.
Yes.
Because also, like, I feel like their noise would probably be like, they all sound like Kevin from Up.
I love it. And what's funny is they have realized that because dinosaurs are technically so bird-like, that the T-Rexes in Jurassic Park wouldn't roar like they would have, but it would have sounded more like a goose honking.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
Which is even more terrifying on some level.
He's in there and he's got the banner that he just knocked down. And he goes,
It would be so
and
much more
Dr. Grant
terrifying.
goes, "Come on, buddy. Come on. You're not scaring
Cough it out.
anybody with that."
Uh,
You okay, Tim?
I'm
this?
great. Thank you very much for asking. I'm doing just dandy.
Well, now I'm not going to leave you hanging like this person at the McDonald's, this fictitious imagined McDonald's that I decided. What's your favorite dinosaur?
My favorite dinosaur is the Parasaurolophus, which it's this one with the little trumpet heads.
Aww.
That I just conveniently have a stuffed Parasaurolophus next to my computer.
I think on a show that I did called Ridley Jones, I think my buddy Tyler played a Parasaurolophus.
You do when you clean it up.
Named Dante, who was a great little skater dude.
Yes, I do remember that because Ridley Jones has also been in our house. And I mean, of course, nice. my second favorite dinosaur is, of course, Yoshi.
Yoshi. Tim, do you have a favorite dinosaur?
I do. It's the triple horn.
Triceratops.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a friend who professionally paints dinosaur pictures, and the number of times that I've mispronounced a dinosaur name, and he's like, seriously. You have a 5-year-old.
If I saw it written out, I could maybe do it.
You have a 5-year-old. You should know these. I'm like, I know. So, David, we have enjoyed having you on our show so much with us tonight. Where can our viewers and our listeners go to find out more about you and your work?
Check me out on @Errigo Voice, my last name, ERRIGO Voice, across social media. I'm probably the most active on Instagram. I have a TikTok, but I literally have one video on it. I have a Twitter because I refuse to call it anything else.
Thank you.
And I'm there on occasion. I don't open myself up on Facebook much. I keep that kind of tight. But yeah, those are the places. And then just keep your ears out. If you do wind up following me on Instagram, you'll usually see my announcements of roles and things like that. Like most recently, a bunch of X-Men stuff. And then
cool.
There was a new anime that just came out called TP Bon,
where I play this character, Booyoyon, who is this basically like a cosmic space booger.
But he helps out Bon and Reem, which is a lot of fun. And then, check there too. I usually do announcements about conventions that I'm going to around the country, and like at the end of the month, I'll be in Oklahoma City. So if you're in Oklahoma City, come check me out.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Well, we will definitely link your socials, as I'm already over here scrolling through your Instagram. Sorry. I'm not weird. And yeah, it does. It is a cosmic space booger, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, he's a very good agent.
Well, that's good.
All right, guys, I want to remind you that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do to help our show continue to grow and get amazing guests like David to come on today and have these funny moments to be able to share with you. And yeah, this was just a whole lot of fun. So please subscribe. It's going to help our show more than we can even begin to tell you. And make sure you go check out David on his socials because he's going to have some cool announcements of upcoming projects. Some that are rumored and we couldn't talk about. We're just going to leave it at that. But you just follow him. You'll figure it out. Anyway, we're going to leave it at that because we don't want to ever get anyone in trouble. And, so there's that.
Especially not with them. Their lawyers are scary.
Yeah, lawyers are scary and we don't have enough money to fight them off. So anyway, there's that. And on that note, we're going to say thank you to David and thank you for listening. And goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, Brett's going to get me.
Copyright 2024 FSF Podcast. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com.